And what I came to the floor today to talk about was something that we actually managed to get done just a few days ago when the Senate passed, the House passed Iran Threat Reduction and Syrian Human Rights Act. This is one thing that people who don't agree on much of anything else in the House and Senate can figure out how to agree on. This bill, while I think it could have been a little stronger, was still a strong effort to reach a conclusion that hopefully the president will sign as soon as possible and send the right message to Iran that even amid our vigorous disagreements on all these other issues, including something as important as cybersecurity, Congress stands united against Iran developing nuclear capacity. Some of the highlights of the bill, this would create strong new measures on any entity that invests in Iran's petroleum, petrochemical, or natural gas sector. Strong measures against any entity that provides goods, services, and infrastructure or technology to Iran's oil and natural gas. Anybody that provides refined petroleum products to Iran. You know, Iran is such an economic basket case. They have all this oil, but they can't produce enough of it, turn enough of it into gasoline for their own country because of the kind of government that they are suffering under. Any country, any company or entity that insures or reinsures investments in Iran's oil sector, that engages in joint ventures with the National Iranian Oil Company, that provides insurance or reinsurance to the National Iranian Oil Company or the National Iranian Tanker Company, that helps Iran evade oil sanctions through reflagging or something that tries to hide the real source of oil coming from Iraq, that sells or leases or otherwise provides tankers to Iran. And I think I said Iraq a minute ago, and I mean Iran in all cases. Transports crude oil from Iran, concealing the origin of Iranian crude in any way. These are good measures that strengthen what we've been doing, and I think what we've been doing is having some impact. I just think we need to have more impact because the result is so unacceptable if Iran successfully gets a nuclear weapon. The bill prevents Iran from bringing money back when it sells oil in other countries. Now, that's 80% of their hard currency comes into the country that way. We would say that can't happen. 50% of all the money that runs the government comes in that way. When the president signs this bill, we're saying this shouldn't be allowed to happen. It also prevents the purchasing of Iranian sovereign debt. Now, I've been working on this issue a long time. In 2006, I worked with my colleagues in the House and Senate and the administration to secure the first Iran Freedom Support Act, which updated the Iran sanctions law and put into law many of the things that we've been doing. This bill, along with that bill, addresses problems that we need to be concerned about as a country. Late last year, the Senate passed an amendment to the defense bill, 100-0, to block Iran's access to global capital markets. Foreign banks that do business with Iran's banks won't be able to do business with the United States financial system. Nobody disputes what a nuclear Iran would mean to the world. Iran is currently led by a man who's called for the destruction of our ally Israel. Iran's government funds and supports terrorist organizations and regimes all over the Middle East that threaten American allies and interests and American citizens. The Iranian regime is dangerous, it's undemocratic, it treats its own people brutally, and it associates itself with other countries that do the same thing. North Korea, Venezuela, Syria are allies of Iran. What does that tell you? You can sometimes tell a lot by who a country finds the few friends they have left in the world. Iran bankrolls Hezbollah and has strong financial ties with Hamas. There is absolutely no reason to believe that a nuclear Iran, now remember, this is a country that can't even produce its own gasoline, even though it sends oil out every day, is focusing on on nuclear activities when they have so many other needs. There's no reason to believe that a nuclear Iran is not a threat to the United States. Some of our country partners in the country in that region, like Turkey, feel like they have to develop nuclear programs if Iran does. The Iranian people, many of whom advocate for freedom and demonstrated their bravery in the 2009 uprisings, are not our enemies. This government, however, is our enemies, and this government should not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Madam President, we're going to have to work together to more vigorously persuade countries like Russia and China that their ties with Iran aren't in the best interest of the world. We have to work to encourage our European allies to accept some further risk, frankly, as they also continue on the path they're on to make these sanctions work better. I understand there's some risk here, but the Senate that doesn't agree on lots of things agrees that an unacceptable conclusion to what's going on in Iran right now would be a nuclear Iran. I urge the President to sign this bill, to implement the provisions as quickly as possible, and to work with other countries in the world to see that we all advance the interest of peace by insisting that Iran not continue on the course it's on. And I would yield the floor.